I never believed in ghosts, until my own security camera started showing something in the basement I thought was empty. It began with a motion alert one random night at 1:43 a.m. About a month ago, I decided to install a cheap motion detection camera in my basement. The sensor light kept turning on by itself late at night, and I assumed it was probably just rats or bad wiring. Still, part of me wanted to see what was really going on down there. The first night seemed normal. The camera recorded a few hours of quiet footage, just boxes, tools, and the old concrete floor. But around 1:43 a.m., the motion alert pinged my phone. I opened the feed, expecting to see dust or a spider crawling across the lens. Instead, I saw movement in the far corner of the basement. It wasn't quick or jerky like an animal. It was slow, deliberate, almost cautious, like someone testing how far they could move without being noticed. When I paused the frame, I saw what looked like the edge of a shoulder, a human shoulder just barely visible in the light. The problem was, it was too tall to be mine and too still to be human. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light, but deep down I knew it wasn't. The next night, I decided to leave the light on the entire time, thinking that might discourage whatever it was. At around 2 a.m., the feed flickered and the light turned off on its own. When it came back on, the camera angle had changed slightly. It was now pointed toward the stairs instead of the center of the room. That shouldn't have been possible. I had screwed it tightly in place, and I live alone. By the third night, curiosity had turned into fear. I lowered the brightness on the camera and went to bed, hoping nothing else would happen. Around 2:30 a.m., I woke to another alert. The clip began clear, empty basement, faint electrical hum. Then static appeared, and when it cleared, something was standing in the frame. It was a woman. Her hair was long, tangled, and wet. She wore what looked like a hospital gown, thin and faded. She was facing the camera, her head tilted slightly to one side, as if she was listening to something. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Every few seconds her image would flicker, not like a normal glitch. It was as if the camera itself couldn't decide whether she was really there or not. When morning came, I finally worked up the courage to go downstairs. The basement was empty, but the air was freezing cold. On the dusty floor, I noticed something new. Someone had written the word "I" with their finger in the dust. I tried to laugh it off, but it didn't feel like a prank. It felt like a warning. That night, I set up 2 cameras instead of one aimed at the stairs and the other covering the far wall. At 2:27 a.m., both feeds froze at the same time. When they came back online, both cameras had been moved. Now they were facing each other, recording nothing but static. I sat there wondering who or what would have the reason or intelligence to do something like that. By the 5th night, I was too terrified to sleep. I stayed awake watching the feed live. The basement looked empty again. But then the screen rippled like water. For a split second, a face appeared right up against the lens. Pale skin, dark eyes, mouth slightly open like it was breathing through the camera. I pulled the plug instantly, but the feed didn't turn off. When I checked my phone, the app showed 2 active devices, one labeled Basement Cam, and another labeled Basement Cam 2. I only owned 1 camera. I tapped the second feed, and it opened to a live view of the basement, except this time the angle wasn't from the corner. It was from behind me, looking at the back of my chair. Before I could move, a whisper came through the phone speaker. It said, very clearly, "Don't turn around." I threw the phone, pulled the breaker, and shut the house down completely. Everything went black. The next morning, the power was still off, yet somehow the basement light was on. I went down there one last time. The cameras were gone. In their place were dozens of old Polaroid photos taped to the wall, every single one of them showing me asleep at my desk. That was 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, my phone buzzed again with a familiar alert. Motion detected. Basement feed live. But I moved out of that house last week. My new place doesn't even have a basement. So tell me, if your phone suddenly showed a live feed from a room that shouldn't exist, would you open it?